Hello everyone! Well, we have finally reached 200 subscribers over into our channel, and we're going to be doing a very special thank you message / Q&A over here right now. So, I'm Patricia.
And I'm Kevin.
And I gotta say that even though that we have been doing these podcasts for almost 2 years now, or 2.5, it just really is amazing that people just really like our work and that we were able to get, so far into having at least a tiny little fan base coming on by, listening to our stuff, reading our blog discussions, and it's just amazing, right, Kev?
I agree. I cannot thank you guys enough. It was just, when Patty told me the good news, I just could not believe it. I was just so blown away by it. I mean, it's such a wonderful feeling and such a great to actually talk to you guys and give us our point of views and you listening. I mean, you guys are really the best, and it made me laugh, and I love all of you, and thank you so much for tuning in to us and listening to us babble about stuff and talk about stuff. I mean, it's crazy, and it encourages us to want to go more and to go forward, because our main goal is to please you guys and to make you happy and to really just at the same time do what we love. And we are very content and very happy that we're still going strong after all these years. And we're sorry for the delays. We're sorry if we're not promptly, there on time to give you, a review or anything. But it just makes us very happy to have wonderful fans like you guys. You are the best, and I love you all very much. And please continue to listen to us as we talk more about what goes on in our lives and medias and everything else like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we never thought that we would get this far. We were just two people who like to talk about random nonsense about movies, TV shows, and video games and all that good stuff. And we just never thought that we would actually have, like, a small group of people actually liking this stuff. And, right before we continue on with the Q&A, we just want to say a huge thanks to all of our associates who allowed us to put our stuff into their sites. Thank you so much, mostly to the people who got us pretty much started where we are. ManicExpression.com. They were the ones who came on by and allowed us to post our blog posts and our podcasts, and we've actually made a lot of great friends over the years over at Manic Expression. And if you haven't checked out that site, I would highly recommend that you do.
Go on to ManicExpression.com. You're going to find such amazing, wonderful people on there, and it's such a great site. It really is. It is amazing how you are able, to be free with your thoughts and express how you feel on a lot of things.
Yeah, and also a big shout out to Comic Book Cast, another great channel which you can check out on their website, thecomicbookcast.com. Go check out their YouTube channel where they review comic books, comic book movies, and they do a lot of great discussions. We've been associated with Comic Book Cast for a little bit, and at one time we did TMNT recaps with them. We will eventually do it again, but we've just been so busy that we haven't had the time. But trust me, with Season 3 around the corner, we have to catch up.
Oh, yeah. And,
of course, a couple of other associated websites that I'm a part of, but nonetheless, they have been crucial to Old School Lane. There's the Re-Up and Nickelodeon Studios in Orlando, Florida Facebook page. There's the PlayStation Let's Play channel. And just recently, we have been associated with a great site called For Entertainment's Sake. And they've also allowed us to post our stuff over there. So once again, for all our associates, thank you so much. We really appreciate, all that you do. We love you, and, keep up the great work. With all that said, I guess we can get started with the Q&A. We have our first question from our good friend Jim Bevan. He's been in our podcast numerous times. The first question is, which book would you most like to see get a film or TV adaptation?
Well, I would have to say that I definitely would love Wicked to get a film adaptation. I've read the book, and although a lot of people love the play, I have yet to see the play. The book was really good. It was definitely a great page-turner, and it's so dark, and it's such a an amazing take on the Wicked Witch. And if you're a huge fan of Wizard of Oz, especially the 1939 Judy Garland film, you will definitely would appreciate the book by Gregory Maguire. I definitely have always wanted to see a film adaptation. I heard there was going to be a film adaptation, but I guess they're waiting a while for an anniversary. I don't know, but I definitely would have loved to see a Wicked movie. I also have always wanted to see Go Ask Alice be adapted to a movie. I know there was a TV movie with William Shatner in the 70s, but I kind of overlooked that movie because it's not very good. And I've always wanted to see something like a faithful movie adaptation of that. So I definitely would have to say Go Ask Alice and Wicked are definitely on my top choices.
Okay, my turn. One of them, now this is a play, but I would love to see them adapt this. If you recall from my top 50 influences, there was a play that I really enjoyed. It's one of the strangest plays that I've ever read, but it's really amazing. It's called Ubu Roy by Alfred Jarry. It is basically a satire of man and his lust for power. It's a mixture of Hamlet, Macbeth, Richard III, and just how man portrays himself. It's kind of like this creature by the name of Ubu Roy, who is this really fat, gluttonous kind of creature who is satisfied with his life. And his wife comes along and says, why don't you kill the king so that you can be the ruler? And similar to Macbeth, he does, and in the end he becomes like this huge tyrant. And it just is so hilarious. The interesting thing about this is that when Alfred Jarry debuted this play, it was shut down in one night because it was so controversial. It would be so amazing if maybe they could either adapt the play into a TV show or maybe a movie, or maybe the life of Alfred Jarry trying to, of how he wrote this play. He died very young, but his work was so ahead of his time. It was so amazing and so hilarious. I know that I'm going to be biased, of course, because, herp the derp, I'm really biased. But I've always wanted to see a documentary on some of the shows that we loved watching as kids. Ever since I saw I Know That Voice, in which it brought us to the behind-the-scenes stuff of voice actors, which I really love. We should definitely do a podcast in the future about that documentary. But I would really love to see documentaries based off of Saturday morning programs. At least maybe a movie of it. I mean, I guess documentaries kind of count as a movie because, you see it on the theater in certain film festivals, but at least maybe a movie about that would be so fascinating.
Oh, I agree.
Anyway, but if we're talking about a book, I would really love to see a movie of Slimed. That would be so amazing if...
Oh, yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. Alright, let's go to the next question. It's from another Manic Expression member, Chilton, if you probably recall from Turtle Talk, episode 5, where we discussed about the TMNT movies. He asks us, what are your thoughts about how Nickelodeon is handling Legend of Korra?
Well, I would have to say that it's a bit of an open question with that one. I mean, I think they could personally do it a little bit better, but that's just me. How about you, Patty?
Are you kidding me? Season 3 of Legend of Korra was amazing! It was amazing! I mean, a lot of people felt that, Season 1 was pretty good and Season 2 was awful, but that was only because of Nickelodeon's fault. They told the creators that they were only going to do 12 episodes, then it became a success, then they had to rush Season 2 at the last minute because, ratings were just so good, and then everybody hated it because it was so rushed and mishandled. Then Season 3 comes along, it was incredible, and, it was kind of like, it was similar to what Avatar was, it was funny, but at the same time so super serious, and it was so super dark. But at the same time, we know how Nickelodeon did it. They took it from their lineup because ratings were so poor. Well, the reason why was because you gave little to no advertisement on, the debut of Legend of Korra, so nobody saw it. To be quite honest, Kevin, did you see the trailer for Season 4?
Oh my god, don't even get me started.
Oh, that was so good! A time skip! That is something that you see in Dragon Ball and Naruto. I never thought that they would do a time skip, taking place 3 years after season 3 ended. And, the villain of the of Legend of Korra, she's going to be voiced by Zelda Williams. Awesome!
And who is Zelda Williams, Patty?
Well, for those who don't know who Zelda Williams is, she is the daughter of the late Robin Williams, and she is awesome in her own right.
Wow.
I know. It's incredible, and Nickelodeon does not give Legend of Korra the credit that it deserves. I know that people are debating about, which is better, Avatar or Legend of Korra, but they're different in their own ways, and maybe in the future we'll discuss more in detail about it, but for now, let's just say that I'm not happy the way Nickelodeon is treating Legend of Korra. I kind of discussed briefly about this in the end of episode 12 of Nick Jukebox, so you can just, you can already just listen to that. Alright, let's go on to the next question. It is brought to us by Jonathan Matthew, who is the founder of our new associated site for entertainment's sake, and he says, with Nickelodeon seemingly refusing to consider the Double Dare reboot with Mark Summers, what do you think the future of game shows on the network if they refuse the king of all game show hosts? For those who haven't been looking at for entertainment's sake, I recently posted an article about how Mark Summers, the host of Double Dare and What Would You Do, has been pleading to Nickelodeon on releasing a reboot to Double Dare for a new generation. And they refused it because they think that Mark Summers is too old for the part. Because, Mark Summers is over 60 years old, and they think he's too old for Nickelodeon's new demographic, and so at this point, and it's kind of interesting because it's a coincidence that, a couple of days right after he pleaded to Nickelodeon about this reboot and they refused him, the Brooklyn Cyclones did a very special 90s or All That event in which Kel Mitchell pitched the first ball, and they were playing Double Dare with the audience members. So, yeah, apparently Nickelodeon can be able to bring back Double Dare whenever they want, as opposed to, bring it a little bit more in relevance. Now, I know some people would argue about, they have the Nick Hotel, and they have Double Dare over there, but that version sucks. Even Mark Summers says it sucks. And I've already made my argument about how I think it's a great idea to bring Mark Summers back and how it may not be so because we already had Double Dare 2000 almost 15 years ago and people hated it. Knowing Mark Summers, I know that he'll do some interesting changes to the formula of Double Dare because, for the most part, I think kids would love it today, don't you think?
I think so. I definitely think so.
Okay, and here's our last question from John Perucci, and he asks, what would your thoughts be if all the classic Nickelodeon characters appeared in one huge special? Perhaps a Nickelodeon anniversary idea. I would love it.
I actually have thought about that many times before. Unfortunately, Nickelodeon, as me and Patty had already discussed in our Turtle Talk podcast that we had previously recorded, I have this suspicion that Nickelodeon treats its older Nicktoons as if they're like the black sheep of the family. Granted, we have the 90s or All That, but it had to take a company such as Shout Factory to release the DVDs of these shows. And there's still more shows they have to release. I mean, I don't think Nickelodeon, for some odd reason, appreciates its older shows. But I do always love crossovers, and I've always thought of the idea of a Nicktoons crossover would be very intriguing. I always thought that maybe somehow, because the Fairly Odd Parents is still on, that Timmy Turner accidentally wishes for something and it causes this big destruction, and he gets all the Nicktoons to come and help him, and SpongeBob and Patrick and Doug and Zim and Gurr and Chucky and Tommy and Angelica, Ren and Stimpy and Jimmy Neutron, of course, who's already friends with Timmy Turner, and Hey Arnold, Shortman, and Helga Pataki, and Gerald, and Norman and Daggett. They all come together, and Rocco, and Heifer, and Filbert. And, I always loved that idea. I really did. I mean, I know we have the Nicktoons, Attack of the Toy Bots, and Glob of Doom, and all that stuff, but I would really love to see a full-on feature film where all the Nicktoons come together in a film.
Yeah, me too. I would love that. And we've already had reunions happen outside of the network. Like, there have been a total of, a couple of Pete and Pete reunions over at conventions and special events. There was an All That reunion over at the Kamikaze Expo in Los Angeles. There was, I believe, an Alex Mack reunion thing going on. They're planning on a Drake and Josh movie, which will probably come out by next year. So it would be so awesome if the Nicktoons were able to get reunited and have a huge crossover, because they used to do that back then. They used to have crossovers, especially Klasky Chupo cartoons, in which they used to cross over with one another. Rugrats would be meeting off with the Our Real Monsters, and Rugrats met up with the Wild Thornberries, and,
The Real Monsters was a really stupid short because they were only in it for, like, how long?
Less than 30 seconds. I know what you're saying, but it would be really nice if we can have a huge crossover again. Like, it could start off with Timmy making a huge wish, and, all the classic, Nicktoons that came out all met up, and there's like this huge thing going on, and, it would be nice if they could be able to take advantage of all the worlds. Like, you go over to O-Town, then you go over to Bluffington, you go over to Ba Sing Se, you go over to Amity Park, all these places that all the shows took place.
What would you do if Aang, Danny Phantom came together to like they did a crossover with Danny Phantom and Avatar?
Oh, that would be so amazing. It's perfect, by the way, because Aang goes over to the spirit world, and Danny goes over to the ghost dimension. It's almost similar in a way. I mean, I know it takes place, like, hundreds of years prior and stuff like that. I mean, Avatar takes place in the past, and, Danny takes place more in the present. And I guess, also we have Korra, of course, and that kind of takes place 70 years after Avatar, and it kind of looks like the 1920s, but still, I would love to see that happen. That would be an amazing idea. And, it would be awesome to see, like, Ren and Stimpy mixed with Rocko's Modern Life, because they have that same similar humor. Or, we have the Angry Beavers meeting up with, I don't know, Cat Dog or something, because they're like this brotherly duo, and it would be so amazing if we can be able to see this huge crossover come together into one, and, Doug and his friends meet up with Arnold and his friends, a mixture between the suburban life and the big city. So, I know that Nickelodeon will never ever do this, but I would love to see this happen. It would be so incredible.
Oh, that'd be great. That would be really awesome.
Yeah. I think that should be it for the questions. We just want to say once again, thank you so much for the 200 subscribers. We really appreciate your patience and your support, and we will continue to do the best that we can with more podcasts, more reviews, and more discussions about all these things that we love to discuss about. So please stay tuned. You're in for a real treat.
Definitely.
Kevin and I have a bunch of interviews from a lot of great people coming up. And not to mention that we will be doing an Our Real Monsters podcast close to Halloween. And we'll be gathering up a bunch of our friends from Manic Expression discussing about that. And Kevin is super excited about this one.
Oh, yeah, very excited.
In fact, in honor of this, I'm rewatching the episodes of Our Real Monsters again just so I can be ready for this.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, that should be it. Thank you so much for listening to this. And hopefully we will see you real soon. So take care.
Okay, take care, guys.